You hear people like Boris Cherney talking about building for AI models 6 months in the future, and then caveat it by saying you can't really know what AI frontier labs are working on because those are closely held secrets. Let's talk about what you can know. Welcome to the Enduring Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Alexander. This podcast is for the people who care about keeping the place running after the next wave of retirements, rifts, or whatever comes next. We spend a fair amount of time talking about why you should build for models 6 months in advance. To be honest, this seems like a derivation of the Wayne Gretzky quote. When he was asked how he scored so many points, he said, "I skate to where the puck will be instead of where the puck is." We need to take Cherney's warning seriously. I remember back in 2020, I was part of a partner program from one of the major tech companies. It was great. They gave us access to early technology and cutting edge stuff. The challenge was when it came to AI technology. We got absolutely no early warning about new announcements. However, there were tier one organizations that got more than a heads up. Their sheer size afforded them more than a developmental role. Now, it's the tier one status triggering my targeting radar when it comes to creating saturated threat environments. For the uninitiated, what this means is that as a part of the drone maker posture, it's beneficial to identify organizations with high-profile partnerships because they are slow to react to consumer-grade threats. Now, before this becomes a tier one and you're not discussion, let's make it clear we're talking about some of the most closely held secrets an organization has when it comes to AI strategy. And you don't get a heads up on existential insights, which means whatever you use to make these calls, it can't depend on seeing vendor announcements. Like a lot of really smart people, Cherney pointed out the problem. However, he didn't give any real solutions other than it sucks to be you. Unfortunately, that's not something that you can use right after finishing this podcast to get anything done. Here's the standard I use instead. Commission only what wins overwhelmingly and lands within 6 months. Everything else you track. There are two gates in that sentence, and a project has to clear both. One asks whether a better model makes this project stronger or makes it obsolete. We'll get back to that one because it's the one that surprises people. The other is simpler. Can this be in production, not piloted, not phase one, in production within 6 months? If it can't, it doesn't get priority funding. That doesn't mean it's dead. It means it waits. So why 6 months and not 3, not 18? I want to be clear about this because it sounds like a forecast, and it isn't. Back to the targeting problem. You're not tier one. Frontier capability doesn't show up on your radar until it ships. That's what a closely held secret means in practice. So you can't wait 6 months to see what the labs do next. Nobody outside those buildings is going to get what's what. I know this sounds a little muddled. The reason is that 6 months isn't what it used to be. AI models double in capabilities roughly every 6 to 7 months. So, in 6 months, what used to be hard could now be both easy and cheap. I recently found a video that talked about removing all skills in a project or Claude project after the launch of a new version of the AI model. The reason is that things that used to require individual skills are now handled by the model, often much better. Here's a heads up for the capital planning team. Your timelines just became accordions. The reason is that AI compresses time. First, AI models have gotten so capable that they can run jobs unattended overnight. Second, What used to take weeks can sometimes be cut down to hours, but it doesn't diminish the insight you bring to the table. The challenge is that you're going to get involved in projects that take weeks and those that take a number of years to reach the maturity necessary to meet production standards. And once they reach the entry maturity threshold, they could iterate very quickly. We talked about the capital planning team's view of timelines, beginning to look more like accordions. The reason is continuous discovery. In a traditional capital plan, discovery happens once, upfront. You scope the project, lock the requirements, and then you build to spec for months, if not years. Discovery and delivery are two sequential phases. And once you leave the first one, you don't go back. That's not how this works anymore. Discovery, figuring out what's actually worth building, now runs continuously in parallel with delivery, the whole way through, which means your team can validate an opportunity in an afternoon. And because the model can execute on it overnight, ship it before your capital committee even meets again. It's not that the work got harder to scope, it's that discovery and delivery used to run on two different clocks, one after the other. And now they're running on the same clock at the same time. And that clock moves faster than a 6-month capital cycle. So let's get specific. The Enduring Advantage Commission standard runs before the financial appraisal, not instead of it. So gate 1, does a better AI model help this project or obsolete it? And gate 2, can it be in production within 6 months? Qualify a project before the hurdle rate math even starts. And only for AI touching work. Instead of pass-fail, it sorts projects into 3 outcomes: fun, commission now. Track, fails a gate today, deferred with surveillance rather than rejected. And stop. The advantage belongs to a vendor or the model itself. Killed, not tracked. Every tracked project then carries on going work. Which gate it failed, the specific trend that would carry it across the finish line, the retest trigger that reopens the file. For a capital planning team specifically, the standard is blunt about the cost. Applied honestly, it disqualifies most of what they normally call a capital project. Imagine a physical asset operator talking about racking, refrigeration, and automation line, a WMS system, all 18-month builds on 7-year paybacks that can't clear a 6-month window given any seasonality. The resolution is scope, not exception. The standard governs only the AI touching slice of the plan. On the reasoning that the team is running 2 capital clocks out of 1 budget, and their existing process was only built for the slower one. 2 things the source document itself flags as unresolved for that team. Whether this reconciles with swarm capital deployments, portfolio distribution posture, or whether the standard gets named to them explicitly or applied unbranded. Ask yourself one question about the project in front of you. Why can't a competitor do this? If the honest answer is because our model is better and we got here first, it fails the priority investment test. That's it. That's the whole test. It doesn't matter how good the return looks. Here's what that actually means in practice. The projects that die under this gate aren't the bad ones. They're the reasonable ones. Decent return, sound logic, a business case that would clear any capital committee in the building. And the moment a competitor gets access to the same model or the one that matches yours in capability, you lose your advantage. Did you really build an advantage or did you rent a head start? Now there's a category of work that fails gate 1 every time, and you should fund it anyway. These are foundational projects, for example, a routing layer that lets you swap models without building everything downstream with basic instrumentation. The plumbing that captures a decision trace in the first place. Run any of that against gate 1 and it fails. None of it is an advantage on its own. A hedge doesn't compound. That's a hole in the standard. It's the wrong test for that kind of work. The real question is narrower. Does this project create no advantage by itself, and does its absence slow down or block every other project's 6-month window? If both are true, it isn't a project at all. It's the floor everything else stands on, and you fund it without ever asking to clear either gate. Here's the whole thing. Compress to one move. When I think of the enduring advantage standard, I think of it the way an agile team thinks of a definition of ready. A checklist, a story, has to clear before it's allowed into a sprint. Too big, too vague, dependency unresolved, it doesn't go in, it waits. This standard runs the same play at a 50,000-foot altitude. Does the advantage live in the model or in the operation? Can it actually ship in 6 months? 2 questions asked before the budget gets committed, not a description of how the work gets done. Once everything's already in place, you can't know what the lab shipped next. Nobody outside of those buildings gets to know. What you can know is which of your own projects need to pass the enduring advantage standard before they get a budget. So go find one AI-touching decision on your list right now and run it through. Both questions. Not the whole backlog, one. That's the standard. Run it and you'll know. You'll actually know.